an attack on this position, which is virtually the front line position. There are some forces a little further up there, about 800 meters from us. There were quite a lot of fighters gathered up there, and one of their vehicles was hit. All of the opposition fighters have now fled that position. Some of them are still where I am, which is basically now the front line. We don't believe anyone was injured in that particular attack, which we think either came from a tank round or a missile. But I think it shows you the position here on the ground, which is that no one really is making any progress. The opposition are where they were some 24 hours ago. They move forward, not the regular army units that have defected to the opposition side, but the young volunteers, very lightly armed. They head up there, and one of the regular army colonels who's here, who really has little control over these volunteer units, said to me, they're very brave, but to the point of being suicidal. And they head up the road, and then they come under attack from Gaddafi's forces, which are much more heavily armed. They have heavy armour, they have missiles. So the opposition have the numbers, all the people, and they seem to have the momentum. But on the other side, Gaddafi's forces have the power, the armour, and they also have better communications, I suspect, than the opposition, who really don't know what each other are doing.
Well, the U.S. commander in charge of naval operations for Libya has been briefing journalists at the Pentagon in the last hour. Patty Cohen joins us now live from Washington, D.C. Patty, what's the word from the Pentagon?
Well, I can tell you I've listened to a lot of Pentagon briefings, and this one was very short on detail. One of the key points that's being asked is about this F-15 that went down. As you know, they're saying it's mechanical problems. That is likely. These jets do have a tendency to do that. Not all that often, but it isn't all that uncommon at the same time. They're saying that one of the pilots was recovered by the Libyan people, was treated with great dignity and respect, and was turned over to the coalition forces. Now, there is an open question about what happened when the other pilot was recovered. We believe that they sent in an Osprey, and that's basically a helicopter-plane combination to go get this pilot. Now, there are reports that when they were going to pick up this pilot, that this Osprey opened fire on a village. There are some reports that there were casualties. So when the admiral in charge of this current operation was asked about it, he said, well, I can't comment on that because it's under current investigation. That's a line that we sometimes see the Pentagon try to take. It usually doesn't hold for very long. Keep in mind, you just saw our reporters on the Kearsarge. There are other reporters embedded. This information is going to start to leak out. The Pentagon knows that. I would guess that in the next couple of hours we'll get more details from official sources, but as of right now, they're really trying to deflect any questions on that.
Now, the Americans, of course, Patty, very keen to hand over control of this operation. President Obama came out last night and said that, the U.S. wanted to relinquish its leading role very soon. Is there any more information as to when exactly they will be doing that and to whom they'll be handing over power?
No, and that has been one of the biggest questions. We've heard it from U.S. officials, as you mentioned, from the President to the Secretary of Defense to the General in charge of the operation to the Admiral now who's leading the forces. And the question is when? When are you going to hand it over, to control over, and who are you going to hand it over to? The thing is, they can't seem to give any more of a definitive timeline than within days we hope to. Now, there is an open question about NATO. Now, initially, the U.S. was saying we were going to hand it over to either a British-French coalition that will lead this operation or possibly a NATO contingent. Now, the issue with NATO, I think the U.S. is going to have the problem with that is because most times the NATO commander is, in fact, a U.S. admiral or a U.S. general, and the Obama administration is very keen to make this seem as if the U.S. is in the rear on this, that they've started the operations, but they don't want to have the responsibility for the long term. The president himself saying that the U.S. military is essentially stretched, and they are really trying to put the focus on support operations. They don't want to see U.S. fighter jets leading this bombing campaign for much longer. The question is, who's going to take it over? I think right now that is the diplomatic fight that's happening throughout the European capitals.
Okay, thank you very much, Patty Cohen, reporting there live from Washington, D.C. And of course, do stay with Al Jazeera for continuing coverage of the battle for Libya. Our reporters will bring you all the latest developments.